Hello and welcome to Bat Flips and Nerds, the baseball podcast with a British twist. I am your host this evening, Russell Easom, and I am in person with the amazing Ben Carter. Ben, how are we doing?
I'm very good, Ross. It's a bit weird for us to be sat here chatting in person and not over a video screen, but this is very exciting. First event of the year to come and watch baseball with fellow fans, so no, looking forward to it.
Yes, and as Ben has semi-alluded to there, the reason why we are here in person is because we are down at Moonshot, which is in the Westfields in London, to have the first MLB Clubhouse event of the year. The event being put on by MLB Europe, MLB Clubhouse, and ourselves to try and get people to come down and watch baseball together and build that community of people who know that other people love baseball in this country. Because if it wasn't for things like this, I wouldn't have known the Bat Flips and Nerds existed.
Yeah, it's the main place that we've met everyone, basically, isn't it? It's always funny, a lot of these relationships started, well, all of them did for me anyway, online, you know, where you write stuff or hop on the podcast and meet people, but it's nice to actually have a chance to see them in real life, have a beer, watch a game, banter about whatever's going on in the world. So yeah, no, it's nice to be all back together for opening weekend and get a chance to catch up.
Yeah, so we've had 3 days of baseball, Ben. I don't know where your attention has been. Has it been a side that now plays in a short porch that isn't Yankee Stadium? Have you been watching a broader set of games beyond just what happens at the Steinbrenner Arena?
I've not been watching a ton of the games, actually. We were together on opening day, so I watched some of the baseball there with you, that was good fun. Some really interesting, exciting games that night. Some closers looking a little bit shaky, as we discussed, so that was fun. I didn't watch much Friday or Saturday. I saw the highlights, the Rays-Rockies game. We were discussing a little bit earlier. Last night's game was really funny because the Rockies gave up, I think it was like 12 hits, 5 walks. Antonio Senzatella had one of the strangest pitching lines you'll ever see, and yet the Rockies managed to win 2-1 on the back of some amazing defense, which is worth looking up. But that was my first taste of seeing some action from Steinbrenner Field, which is a bit, still it doesn't feel like a Major League Park when you see it on TV. But no, I've been trying to keep across all the games that are taking place, watching the highlights, keeping up with it. It has been a real overdose of baseball, but missed it after the long winter. How about you?
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, we watched those games on Friday. I watched a little bit more on Friday night, and then last night I was with my partner and her housemates, and they permitted me to put on the baseball while we were chatting and having a good evening. So we put on the first game, which was the Brewers-Yankees match, and nice. Suffice to say, 2 or 3 of them were really questioning what's normal about baseball, because it was like home run, home run, home run, and they were like, is this normal? And me and my partner Brendan were just like, no, that's not really normal. I don't think anybody would have said that would have happened. I think having the different leadoff hitters going like back to back, hitting home runs, I will hold my head up, and I think like quite a few people, I was lively and probably loudly questioning Austin Wells as a leadoff hitter just as he smacked that home run on Thursday night.
Yeah, that was a great moment. Russell berating the Yankees for putting Austin Wells lead off just to watch him then smash one over the fence. And last night's Yankees game, first time in history, right, that it was back-to-back home runs in the first 3 pitches of the game. I think we're going to get onto the other talking point from that game or from the bats a little bit later on. But yeah, poor Nestor Cortez, that was not a nice reintroduction to Yankee Stadium in his first start as a Brewer. That was brutal to watch. So yeah, good to have baseball back. I think we're gonna grab George maybe now of MLB UK Clubhouse, maybe talk to him a little bit about what we're doing here and what those guys have got planned for the rest of the season. So I'm going to cleverly tilt our GoPro and introduce him. He's live. George, thank you for popping on. I'm going to give you this mic and then maybe we can share it a little bit. But I guess we've just been mentioned that we're here, first event of the year. Nice to see everyone in person again. How are you doing? What does it mean to be back with people watching baseball again?
Firstly, thanks for having me on here, and it's brilliant to be back. I think we've all missed baseball during the off-season, as always, and the chance to enjoy it in public and with these fans that we've known and grown to love over the years, and this whole experience as a shared community is wonderful. And I think we're just looking to grow that year on year, and I'm excited about the whole revamp. Obviously, we've got the MLB UK Clubhouse on our side, you guys with the revamp at Bat Flips and under the MLB Europe Fan Network. I think the future is very exciting. I really can't wait to see what the future holds this year.
Brilliant. Yeah, I'm sure people have seen on socials the rebrand. Obviously, we also now have shiny new logos and colours and everything, which is very exciting, as you say. What does it mean for you guys as far as what's like changing in terms of your approach this year? What are you going to be doing differently? What can fans come to expect from the new MLB UK Clubhouse?
I think it's just more about understanding that there's a very wide kind of fan base out there, and we're trying to appeal to everyone in a way which makes sense to everyone. It's difficult because you've got existing fans who don't want to be pandered to like as if they've never watched the game before, and you've got new fans who really are coming absolutely fresh to the sport, and we can't stress this enough. We've always been looking to get these people on board and get them into this community and show how welcoming it is. So I think in terms of the rebrand, it sounds cliched and a bit business jargony, but it's just to be more approachable and to be more clear in terms of like who we are, what we are, and I think that's going to become more and more apparent over the course of this season. Our goal, as we've always stressed, is to have events not just in London but around the whole of the UK, because it's MLB UK Clubhouse for a reason. It really is a movement, and the more we can get people to understand that and buy into it, the more everyone is going to benefit from it, because it's a wonderful sport. We're always at pains to stress that we welcome fans of all 30 teams or fans of no teams. You know, if you just like the sport but you don't actually even have a team, you're more absolutely welcome to come. It's never ever been a closed shop, and that's exactly what we want to try and emphasise with the rebrand and the kind of freshness with it.
Yeah, I think that's a brilliant sentiment to go with. It's something that I have found coming into baseball in playing either the sport or being kind of that fandom, is that it's genuinely been a great like open environment where pretty much anybody you come in, you can be like, there's no gatekeeping here. We're not one of that. Like, we all want you to love the sport that we love. So please do, if you find the opportunity in the future, just come down to one of these events. I may be jumping the gun slightly, but I think kind of there has been another location outside of London decided as what we'll try and do with what I think are going to be attempts at kind of like monthly events now throughout the rest of the year, George.
Definitely. I mean, that's for us is really the priority. I think we... I don't want to let the cat out of the bag too much, but I think in terms of from an MLB UK Clubhouse side of things, we're looking to actually get a couple of other people involved on board with our group. So if you're listening and think that that's something which would be an attractive option to you in terms of helping us do what we do on social media, staying active on there, and kind of being in touch with the community of baseball of MLB fans in the UK, by all means, drop us a DM on any social media platform that we're on. We're going to look to expand to other platforms like Blue Sky, etc. as well this year. So don't feel like you're limited to Twitter or Instagram or whatever. We're going to be out there. We're going to be active, and we're going to look to expand. So I think working with you guys for us is very, very important as well, because we cover kind of like different sides of the same coin. We deal with the sort of community side of it, as we always have, and then you've got Batflips, who are very much involved with like grassroots baseball, with the statistical and numerical side of baseball, and I think it marries up really well because everyone enjoys baseball in their own different ways, and we kind of have that perfect blend. So I'm really, really excited for what this year's got in store for us.
Yeah, likewise. I mean, it's funny. We obviously we've known you guys for so long now, that these events that have happened in the past, and yeah, I mean, we've met on quite a few occasions. Obviously, going back, I think maybe pre-London Series 2019, even when these events were taking place on a smaller scale. But it's cool for us to now be a little bit closer together in terms of how we're putting what we're doing forward and trying to connect with fans. So yeah, I would definitely encourage people to come and check these events out and get involved as much as they can do. I guess for anyone who hasn't been down to an event before, thinking about coming along, what can they expect when they come down to somewhere like Moonshot and want to see a game with some fans?
I think firstly, as I said before, a welcoming atmosphere. We always, myself and Nick, who you hopefully will know from online, if you're listening to this, also runs LA Angels UK. And what we focus on every time at these events is to make sure that we're approaching people who we can tell are new at the events that we've never seen before, get to know them, get to speak to them, see what their connection is with baseball, what they enjoy, and try and really understand how this community works. Because I think it's safe to say that fans in the UK for MLB are slightly different from fans that perhaps in America. Obviously, you're going to get a lot of expats here, but if you're talking about specifically British fans, everyone enjoys the game in a slightly different way. And that's the same if you're going to the Far East, you're looking at Japan and Korea. Everyone's got their own kind of fan character and the way that they enjoy it. So it's very, very important to us to try and reach out to everyone and make sure that we understand what those nuances are.
Brilliant. Yeah, I mean, it's funny. When we got here, it was myself, obviously, in my Rockies jersey that people watching can see, and a Rays fan came in next. So there literally is all 30 teams represented here, and we were able to get Rays Rockies straight onto the TV to watch first up. So look, there'll be fans from every team here. There'll be games on all the TVs. It is good fun. Nice to chat baseball through with fellow nerds and fellow Batflip enthusiasts. So no, definitely recommend it. I feel like it'd be a shame to get you on and not talk a little bit about the Astros, George. How are you feeling about the season upcoming? How is Astros Fans UK going? Tell us a little bit about 2025 in the Astros world.
Yeah, a lot of change once again for the Astros. Obviously, having traded Kyle Tucker away before he would hit free agency at the end of this year, and having lost Alex Bregman in free agency, very different feel to the Astros. But honestly, and I know I am guilty of being slightly over positive at times in general when it comes to the Astros, but I genuinely have. Just a bit, but I do have a genuine level of optimism for this team. I don't know how far they can go, but in terms of the actual makeup of this team, I think having Isaac Paredes third base is looking like a really good acquisition, even early doors, because he's taking a lot of pitches. One of the worst things for us last season was that we became obsessed with this ultra aggressive mindset at the plate, and so many games where we'd be 5, 7 pitches, 8 pitches, 3 up, 3 down, and piling the pressure back onto our pitchers. And it was a miracle last season that we were able to even win the division, considering the volume of pitching injuries that we had and the makeshift kind of rotation that we put together. It was actually an incredible job we did after a disastrous first 6 weeks. In terms of this year, very excited about the team. I think having won that first series against the Mets was very important for us. Struggles at home, still not quite hitting yet, but obviously it's very, very early doors in the season. I think that will come. But good to see Altuve not bothered by the switch to left field in terms of his actual hitting. Already got 5 hits in that first series, and yeah, I'm just very, very optimistic about the fact that this team is going to grow together. There's reasons to be confident there. Naturally, every team is guided and dictated to by the health of their players. If we have 2 or 3 key injuries, we could be in big problems. But I think that's the same for almost any team that's not the Dodgers or the Mets, pretty much, because it's they kind of have unlimited pockets, but it's what it is. In terms of Astros Fans UK, my content this season, really expanding it. Got my my next day recaps, which I've just revamped in terms of calling it the extra innings next day recap. So check that out if you're an Astros fan listening. I'm also on YouTube now, so give the YouTube channel a check. Pretty much all platforms, whether it's Twitter /X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all of them really, YouTube. So yeah, I'm very, very excited to really push it, try and grow this Astros fan base, which is what I'm very passionate about in the UK and across the world, and indeed with the fans back in America as well. I'm hoping to get out to Houston myself later this season, and looking forward to just interacting with everyone here.
No, that's awesome, George. Yeah, from our perspective, I think both the B team and the A team both had the Astros at 88 or 89 wins.
I think that's pretty good.
It's I think they have a system that we all trust, that the same people that are still in place, behind the scenes, the same place is still in place, kind of at those key levels, that you're you know what, you've earned the trust. The same way that you kind of have with the Rays, where it's you don't quite know how it's going to fit all together exactly right now, but they've earned that trust. You have players like Framber going into his free agency, somebody who could be maybe looking at $150, $200 million contract out there from what he's doing, through 7 innings on opening day, which is only one of 2 guys who actually did that. Mm-hmm. Massive innings performer. I think once again, who knows? We could even see Lance McCullers throw a pitch, which would be a dream. As someone
yeah, absolutely. He's actually pitching today, I think, for the Space Cowboys in a rehab start. So yeah, I feel for him so much. He's had such an injury nightmare. I really, really hope that this is the year where he can actually finally get back out there. He hasn't pitched for us since that World Series in 2022 where he got absolutely destroyed by the Phillies in Game 3. So we'll see. But it's I agree with you. The thing for us at the Astros is that, like I said, the process and the whole kind of the pitching lab and all that is I don't know what they do, the ins and outs of it, but it's incredible and it is tried and tested. And our overseas, our international acquisitions are arguably second to none, certainly in the top 2 or 3 in MLB. And just when you think, the Astros are that they've lost another key piece, suddenly we've got someone coming from Dominican Republic or Venezuela who's throwing 98, 99, and you're thinking, wow, okay, this is just another piece to add to the puzzle. So I think it's going to be an exciting division. I think that the Rangers feel like they are primed to have a bigger year than obviously what was very poor for them last year. I've got to be honest with you, I'm never going to believe in the Mariners ever. I'm never ever going to believe in them. They've got
I think it's a fair position.
No, I think that that their pitching is still, even with injuries, is still very, very, very good. And I love watching their pitchers do what they do, but their offense is just not there, and I don't think that's going to change this season. And then also the mindset. I think for them, it's a bit like they've got a mental block which they can't get over. And and then looking at the Angels, again, I think the Angels have got so much to prove in terms of to actually be taken seriously. That's the key stumbling block for them. Is that I think they actually had quite a good offseason in terms of picking up players that look like on paper they should be fairly dependable, and they're not going to be world beaters, but the ones that should actually just get them through a season.
Yeah, but that's been the Angels for maybe the last 5 years.
Yeah.
You kind of thought the one-year deals have never been the problem. It's how seemingly no prospect has come through that system and has been good since Mike Trout. I'll give Shanuel a bit of an opportunity, and it doesn't help. Like, I know Rondon gets a lot of shtick, and potentially like deservedly so, but like it doesn't really help. The guy that you put bank on to be like that corner of your fight is just like, yeah, you know what, like I kind of don't really like baseball and I'm injured. Oh, and I'm injured again. And I'm injured again. Like no aspersions against the man's character or whatever and stuff like that. But like there's a reason why the Nationals fans will still love Strasburg, even though he basically played for 5 innings after that contract, even though Rondona's done the same.
I think with the Angels, and it's old ground, but I think if I was an Angels fan, I'd still be pulling my hair out of the fact that they didn't cash in on Ohtani when they had the chance, because they could have had such an incredible haul. They could have completely revamped the farm and even the major league team if they traded him before that deadline, before he got injured. So I mean, I think for them it's a case of like that was a sliding doors moment, and it's going to take them years to properly get to a point where they can actually build something. I don't think this is the year for them. I'll tell you what, the A's, I think that they might surprise a few this year. They've got some good players there. Butler, he was smashing us around last season. So, I think that's... and obviously, watch it, Brent Rooker, he's going to do damage. So I think that I don't know what their pitching's like this year. I'll be honest with you, I haven't really looked into...
Well, obviously that's where the question does come from, but they picked up Severino through 6 clean, good innings on that first experience. So we're all really kind of just wondering what's going to happen in that stadium, kind of how that plays out. It generally plays as a pretty aggressive stadium when it comes to stats in the AAA stand. So we've got to wait and see that are they right to concentrate maybe on the hitting side so they can actually just hit it out of that park, especially when it gets warmer and warmer and warmer. But yeah,
I think as a final point for me in terms of the AL West, what an opportunity for whoever wins it to try and do damage on the AL side, because it's so open. Like the NL is a war zone. There's so many great teams there, whereas on the AL side, I think anyone could make it to the World Series this year of the teams that are going to be sort of contending for the division titles. I really think that it's going to be anyone's game. Obviously, not going to prognosticate anything in March, but I just think that's going to be fascinating when it comes to the crunch. But yeah, Astros wise, very positive.
Great to hear. Well, look, we'll let you go. I know you've got other things to be doing here, but thank you for joining us. And yeah, for everyone who obviously is listening to George, make sure you follow not just Astros Fans UK, but MLB UK Clubhouse. Those guys are doing great work, setting up events like this, making it all happen. Good luck to the Astros this year, George. Hopefully we'll have you on a little bit later in the season, and we can see how those prognostications are getting on. But yeah, we'll catch up with you later. So I guess, other than the Astros and the opening weekend, there are a few other talking points we're going to get to about what's been going on in the world of baseball. And I feel like the big talking point, especially after the offensive barrage last night in the Yankees game, were those funny shaped bats. And as we were sitting here, I saw it come up on the screen about the newly designed bats and what's going on here. I guess for anyone that's missed it, it came out on the broadcast last night that a few of the Yankees players, based on some research done by their analytics department, have now got bats that have got a barrel much closer to a larger barrel much closer to their hands than towards the end of the bat, so it makes it look a little bit funny where it kind of goes out and then back in towards the bottom of the bat. But the early results are that those bats seem to work well, because they hit a team record 9 home runs last night. I think it's Volpe and Chisholm were the two that had the most pronounced differences in how their bats looked, and both those guys went deep. Russell, there's been a bit of outcry about should it be allowed, is it within the rules? The answer to that is yes, but is this good? Is this good for baseball? Is this bad for baseball? Are we going to see every team starting to use these bats? Is it all a much about nothing? What do you think about the new bats?
Yeah, it's a weird one, because it's like, I find that baseball in a lot of regards is very analytically driven, and it's very future forward. It's really kind of like working on what it does, but on some base things, they do almost nothing. Like, we think of all the analytics we've had in baseball. It took basically until the noughties for people to actually see hey, we're just going to stand in the same 7 defensive positions all the time. Where you're like, cricket, and it's obviously they've never maybe had set fielding positions, but you move them literally like all the time when you do that. And I don't want to pull the comparison once again to cricket, but like so many guys have different bats and bat shapes in cricket, and I know it from the baseball side. Generally, you have sizes. You have ones that are kind of like a little bit loaded more to the end, a little bit more of like an even stuff. The kind of like the point is that we're seeing is this pronounced kind of tapering out and then back in, which is what people haven't seen. But it's like it's one of those weird ones where it's to me sometimes I'm like, surely somebody's thought about this.
It seems remarkably simple that no one would have thought to do this earlier, right?
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where, like, in my head, I equate it to something like the seam shifted wake, which, for those who don't get it, it's effectively when you throw a curveball or an off-speed pitch and you basically keep the seam rotating, like, on the side or on the axis on the side. Because you've got that seam permanently there, it actually will move or deviate more than you think because the seam actually breaks up, cuts up the air differently, and that's what gives you that rotation. And you're like, well, in cricket, pretty much you spend that whole entire time scuffing one side of the ball to do exactly that sort of thing. In baseball, they've got it to the point where you knew that like you were not allowed to scuff the ball. People who did scuff the ball deliberately got done in trouble, but people didn't think about, oh yeah, but what happens if I just rotate the ball and keep the seam there? Like that seemingly took until the point that we had slow-mo cameras for people to kind of to work that out. That's something to do. I imagine there are people over time who have thrown pitches like that and we've just not been aware that's why they were so good. This once again seems one of those things that just seems so fundamentally like, why is everybody using exactly the same bats? It seems dumb, but then it also seems that like it's a really sensible thing for an organization the size of the Yankees. This is the things that they should be doing. The same thing with that. Impact-wise, it's so down to the batters because so many of these guys have been swinging the same bats or the same weighted bats for probably 20 years.
Yeah, yeah.
And I don't know about you, just playing like in the UK, I swung a bat for like 2 years, it broke. And I tried to swing other bats. I was awful.
Really?
Like I really struggled to swing like a different bat to the one that I basically spent like my first 2 years playing with. Took me like probably like about 4 or 5 games before I then just to adjust to a different bat because just the weight was slightly different.
That's interesting.
Felt so like, and then you get in your head, and so I just don't know. Obviously, these are premium sports stars, not single A players in the United Kingdom.
They're slightly better than us. Slightly better.
It is an adjustment, and if it's an adjustment where they've gone, actually, you don't need to make the adjustment because you're so good at doing the swing, but you just get yourself jammed up a little bit on the inside. So, you know what? You do you. Let's move the bat and kind of make it work. So, who knows?
Yeah, I think it's a good thing, honestly. I think a lot of the advanced analytics or changes in development in the last few years have favoured pitchers, and I think there's been a lot of discussion around things like tunnelling, things like spin rate. Obviously, velo's been known for a while, but all this stuff that's been relatively new to the world of baseball that's helped us understand what makes pitchers effective and how they can become more effective going forward. And it feels like we maybe haven't had quite the same advances in the world of hitting. You know, exit velo we understand a lot better now, and launch angle and things like that. There obviously are still metrics that we know are important, but I think in terms of how we improve those, I think the world of baseball has found that more difficult to get right compared to pitching. So I think any advancement like this, where actually now we're going to see hitters, you know, maybe try and level up the playing field a bit, or just have another option, I suppose, to make pitchers think a little bit more, is great. And I don't think this is the kind of thing where we're going to see every single hitter using these bats going forward. It's obviously something they identified for certain hitters, where they were getting jammed more often than not. Let's move that barrel up a little bit and make it work. And maybe that will now need to sort of a bit of a cat and mouse, sort of how the pitchers adjust, how the hitters adjust, and it will just make the game more interesting, I think. So look, if the Yankees go out tonight and score 15 more runs and on 8 more home runs, we might look back on this and say, actually, is it such a good thing? But I don't see the effect being that pronounced. I think that was probably more Nestor Cortez serving up delicious plates of meatballs than anything to do with the bats themselves. But hey, it's given us a talking point, something to talk about. I'll be interested to see in the next couple of weeks whether more players, more teams start to pick up on those bats and follow suit.
Yeah, I think I've seen a few pieces. I think Trevor Plouffe put something out saying that, as far as he was aware, there are actually quite a few guys that are thinking of using these bats.
Oh, really? Okay.
So it's not something that I think is
It's not just the Yankees.
It's not just the Yankees.
Yeah.
It may have been like a hitting like development like person or whatever that's kind of like has brought this idea, and kind of the Yankees maybe organization have taken it on board and gone yes, whereas maybe some other areas or other teams have gone like, no, just get better with the normal bell end instead of like coming here with this fancy weird bat that no one thinks you can use properly.
Interesting, yeah. Well, that was the main, obviously, talking point from last night. Is there anything else storyline-wise that you've seen from the weekend? I think one thing I noticed yesterday from the games was Griffin Conine making an outrageous leaping catch over the wall for the Miami Marlins. I don't think they're going to get much shout out on our podcast this year, so shout out to Griffin for an early catch of the year candidate that saved the game for them, that they ended up winning in extra innings. He obviously is the son of Jeff Conine, which is a nice parallel, I suppose, in that he had a great defensive play 20 years ago in the NLCS that won them that division series or championship series, and then his son then having an awesome play, obviously 22 years on, is a very nice, cool story. And then I was saying to you just before we started recording, there was a cool quirk in scoring at the end of that game that you put me in my place, saying that's just the way it's meant to be. But it was a tie game, bases loaded, bottom of the inning in the 11th, I think, so extra innings. Obviously, one run ends the game, wins it for the Marlins, but it was a ground rule double that was hit, which obviously is an automatic 2 bases. So I thought, would that then mean that the Marlins get 2 runs and they would win, whatever it was, 6-4 rather than 5-4? But actually, no, they just get the 1 run on it, even though it was a ground rule double. So it goes in the books as a double, but only as 1 RBI, only as 1 run scoring, which is just the most nerdy, boring thing I can ever talk about. But I thought it was interesting.
Yeah, no, it's the glorious ones where you kind of obviously normally if you get the home run, it's basically your way of kind of getting ahead further.
The extra runs, yeah.
The intricacies of knowing these rules comes from playing single A baseball in the UK, where you have 5-run limits.
Right.
So all of the different ways that you can potentially score more.
Possibly get over that.
Get more than 5 runs, because you got to know them. Because if it happens, you've got to be like, I want my 8 runs, not my 5 runs.
Yeah.
A couple of things for me to talk about. I think it would be remiss if we didn't talk about Randy's bat spike after that, potentially kind of already up there for bat flip, maybe, or spikes, back flips. I think we kind of have to include them as it's kind of
spike of the year.
Yeah, it's kind of like a bat flip is effectively just doing something after you've tonked something. So that was
awesome.
Randy being Randy, making himself center stage. I think obviously that he didn't have the greatest of years last year with Tampa Bay before he went over to Seattle, and he's one of those guys that runs hot and cold, and if he runs hot, he's amazing. We all remember there were the talks of Randy being the new Mr. October or whatever. I remember being out there in the WBC and watch Randy just kind of being Randy and just being I am the man, everything that's going on. So he is just electric entertainment to watch, kind of what that happens, and hopefully can provide some of those poor Seattle pitchers with some run support. I
mean, I think if he has a good year, that's going to go a long way towards making them competitive. I know we obviously mentioned with George earlier, we kind of just ruled them out automatically now, just based on the years of getting close but not close enough. But if he can have a big year, if Julio Rodriguez can have a big year, I think he had 2 steals yesterday. He looks healthy and fit and fighting. That you can start to sort of squint and see maybe a half-decent lineup in there, which has always been their issue. So that's a promising sign for Seattle in the early going. Roki Sasaki, I was going to mention, obviously struggled last night in his Dodger Stadium debut. I think he was pulled in the second inning, right, and gave up 4 or 5 balls, struggled with his control. I don't think there's anything to worry about long term there. I think we saw Yamamoto struggle a little bit to start the year last year for the Dodgers as well, and it may just be getting up to speed with the swing of things to start the season. I mean, they won anyway, right? They're still unbeaten this season. We had the Mookie Betts walk-off. The Dodgers look a force to be reckoned with. So, no concerns there.
No, I think some people may not know is that the MPB ball and the MLB ball is slightly different. There is a slight, it does feel different. So, obviously he's had spring training and got through that, but seeing kind of what Yamamoto did, maybe even thinking back to Ohtani when he was first pitching, it took them all a little bit of time to get accustomed to kind of what's exactly going on. And maybe it is then, for them, it's something that they're not that used to in a while, so it gets a bit of bright lights. But I don't really have any concerns of him kind of getting it on. I think he's a phenomenal guy, and we'll work it out sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
I think some teams might be worried, though, is about what their closers are going to do. I think we saw some pretty shocking performances across the board from some closers there. Opening night,
including your man,
including Class A.
Yeah.
Opening night, I was just here we go, 3-0 down, get it back to 4-3.
Yeah.
Cade Smith, boom, one up, faces the minimum with 2 strikeouts. Herron comes in, faces the minimum, 2 strikeouts. Gaddis doesn't give up a hit, walks a couple, but still gets through the inning. And then it was Class A, which just double, single. I looked back on it, and I was actually, 2 of those pitches were hit, almost half a foot off the home inside the home plate. So it's they're not meatball pitches.
Not going to happen very often.
Not meatball pitches that were located well, but we saw Devin Williams. We've already seen Josh Hader. I think Presley last night was very lucky to get out of his
I think
save.
Ryan Presley's losing that job sooner rather than later based on how last night went. He's looking shaky.
Saved by either a great play from Dansby Swanson or some
a
terrible
horrible play from
yeah,
Garrett Hampton.
Yeah, I can't quite work out which way it is.
I think a bit of both.
I think, the pump fake is just like, are you really going to go that early? That feels something that you would expect in lower league British baseball.
How he didn't get back to the base, but
let's do that. So, that's kind of like where you're at then. Otherwise, I think we're just at this. My position is: are any team going to have more wins than the Dodgers at any point this season? In the fact that they are 2 games ahead of everybody else, and their rest days are quite a while till they get back, and they are 4-0. Do you think that anybody will ever have a better record than the Dodgers?
I feel like every year we see a team go like 22-8 to start the season or something crazy, and maybe that's the Dodgers this year, to your point, and so no one ever does. But I feel like in this next month, maybe someone has a hot start and can overtake them, if only briefly. But I mean, I think the Dodgers. I know I said in our 18 predictions that I thought the Braves might outdo them for best record in baseball. But look, the Dodgers are going to win a whole heap of games. They're going to be a very good team, and this is even with Betts obviously still recovering from his illness, and with Freeman maybe still being slightly hobbled, and the rotation not even putting it all together yet. So they're a frightening proposition. I mean, Tommy Edman's going to be NL MVP, I guess, based on the first 3 games of the 30 days of the season. So look, they're going to be a wagon again. But we'll see how the next month goes. I'm sure someone will come out and give them a run for their money at some point.
Yeah, I think that's probably the case. But it's a fun hypothetical to think that the Dodgers will never
be overtaken.
Never be overtaken for the entire season.
Well, we should probably go and be sociable and chat with some of the other people here at this event. But that was good for us to have a little bit of a chat in person about baseball. Rare that we get to do so. Thanks for Russell for taking the time to chat with us. Or with me, I should say. And obviously, big thanks to George for hopping on and talking us through what we're doing here and what his team's doing this year as part of their community efforts. And obviously, also chat a little bit about the Astros. I'll let you do the outro, but good to chat.
Yeah. Writing anything, Ben?
Sorry?
Writing anything?
Oh, God, here we go. I do mean to write more. There's no point even saying it, but Gav, I'm kind of working on it at some point. We saw him on Thursday, and he was berating me for not getting more done for the website, so I'm going to pull my finger out at some point. You?
I always get stuck between ideas, which is always the fun side of doing analytical stuff. You kind of end up halfway through something, and then you go ooh, something else looks interesting, and you get the ooh piece of candy. MLB is very good with the ooh piece of candy when it comes to statistics.
There's new stuff this year, isn't there, that they've got information on? Was it the where batters are in the batter's box, and then where they step towards when they're swinging? I don't really know how that would make for analytical content, but I'm sure if anyone can find a way, probably you can. Yeah,
it says once you get the large enough sample size, you can start to look through it. Some of the stuff, obviously, last year we got the bat speed stuff, which is some very interesting stuff that came out of that. Knowing that MLB players choke it up, but choke it up basically is 2 miles an hour slower.
Oh,
so
really?
It goes from averaging 71 miles an hour to averaging 69 miles an hour. So if you think that they do have a slightly different standpoints as well, sometimes a few people adjust on that. But honestly, more they change their swing far more depending on certain pitches than they do on the count.
Interesting. Well, there we go. Plenty to get our teeth into nerd-wise, and I'm sure we'll be back next week to talk through any other storylines from the first week of baseball. Let's go chat with some of the folks here.
Yeah, let's go watch some baseball.
Sounds good. Go Rockies.
Go Guardians. All right. Thank you very much, boys and girls, for listening to us. As always, you can find us at @batflips_nerds on X and Batflips and Nerds on YouTube and IG. We will be speaking to you soon, probably with a full review of the first week of the season. Cheers.
Bye.